Are we too harsh on new comics? Now, I think when I got this question, this was actually user submitted by Comics Joe,
Mm.
who's a regular commenter on our channel, and I thought about myself, and I thought, you know what? Yes, I might be. But here's the thing. New comics have it pretty hard because we've got decades and decades of great comics featuring a lot of the same characters, and we've all sort of made our minds up about what we want to see from a Spider-Man book or a Batman book. And if that new run doesn't immediately hit all those marks, we kind of say, this isn't for me, without really giving it much time to prove its worth. Do you guys think that that's something that we do? And do you think that it's a justified way to judge comics?
Can I question what we is first? Do you mean like as the comics pals, or do you mean comics fans in general?
I think always.
Okay,
I don't think we're harsh enough.
go for it.
Uh, my stance is if it doesn't do enough to hook you, it's it's not it's not worth it. If you put that book down and you're feeling lackluster about it, it didn't do its job.
And we talk about, I don't know which one of us said it first, but the contract that comes with the first issue might have been a Sean thing. Um, and I think there is an art to the first issue that when it comes to new
Mhm.
comics, whether that's a new number one
Absolutely.
or a new creative team on a book, or even like a new book that's maybe not even big two, there is something you would expect in terms of a formula for the first issue. You kind of need to get an idea of who the players are, uh, what the story is, and a hook to get you into issue two. And also, preferably, some good dialogue in between and some good art. And I think that having read comics and honestly have critically talked about comics for as long as I have at this point, which is like probably going on over a decade at this point altogether. Geez, I just felt really old for a second. I just think I'm more aware of that contract and of that the art of the first issue. So I think I'm appropriately harsh when it comes to critiquing first issues. That being said, if you have a good first issue, that'll hook me and that'll get me excited for your book. So I think like if it is a successful thing, I'm even more praiseful for it. Even on Pals Polls, I always say I'm more likely to pick a pick of the week that's a number one over something else that I've continued to like because it's an unexpected and it's a surprise and I enjoy that.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me it's I'm not even looking for a formula necessarily because I think if I knew a formula, I would be even less interested because you're seeing the beats, right? But I know when something feels repetitive and feels undercooked to a degree, right? Like for me, the most recent example I can think of is Zatanna, and my critique of that book was uh, that it felt like something of a past era where all of these things happen all at once and all of a sudden, and then boom, there's the cliffhanger, and all we have is a bunch of things that happened, and we have no explanation for anything, and we're just left to pick up on to the next issue. For me, as an experienced reader in this the year of our Lord 2025, that's not enough to get me to the next issue because it doesn't tell me anything for going forward, or it doesn't tell me enough to get me to go forward.
Can I ask, does your criteria for both of you, does your criteria for a number one change in any way if we're talking about big two versus anything outside of that? Or and I guess I would also include Energon in that. But so like those big IP stuff and then anything outside of that.
You'd include Energon in the with the big two. You're saying, yeah,
The
Yeah.
the only thing that changes for me is creative team. It doesn't matter what property they're on, because the only thing I can really come in with an idea of quality is based on the creative team. like a character itself does not mean quality to me as much as a creative team does. So like you can put anyone on a new number one at Marvel or DC, and I will kind of go into it with the same, um, I guess, vibe based on their other work, and it doesn't matter if they've worked at Marvel or DC before. So it really is creator based for me. Like think of Daredevil, a character that is consistently pretty. People are pretty much swinging for the fences when they're on Daredevil, but just because like I had been reading, maybe I'm out of order here when this came out, but I had been reading Thunderbolts by Diggle at the time, not really caring much for it. So when Andy Diggle was announced on Daredevil for Shadowland, which eventually turned into Shadowland, I had already been not too excited for the new run because of the preconceived notions I've had on the creator rather than the property. So I don't think it changes based on character or publisher or anything as much as creative.
It does for me. For me, anything outside of the big two, three if we're counting Energon, anything outside of an IP has to establish itself more than anything within that IP already has to. You know, when you're coming at Spider-Man, you already have a baked-in foundation. Whereas with a creator-owned or an indie book, you have to work that in. And generally, I think that comes with more work being put in to the first issue.
Yeah, I think on that one I definitely come down where I need more from a non-big two number one. I For me it needs to be something that's like, wow, this is a hole in my reading, or this is a highly imaginative thing. Like I think about Kaya, one of my favorite books. I don't read any other fantasy books. So Kaya has that going for it. Then it focuses on young protagonists. I can't think of another young protagonist book I'm reading right now. Then it's got Wes Craig. There is no other Wes Craig book. So like it hits all these notches that it's like this is a must purchase.
I think I misunderstood the question then, because yeah, I can see how a non IP book, let's just say that, um, requires more of a hook for you to want to invest in that.
Yes.
Saga snagged me right away, first page, and there are some number ones that I've read from Image or wherever where it's like, okay, I don't think it's for me, and I will drop it as number one. Yeah, I think there is more cachet needed for a new book that's non IP. Yeah, I think creators
But
definitely help, but
I will give a non-IP more of a chance than I will an IP.
based on it being like a non IP book, like a new idea, or based on creative.
A combination of those.
Okay.
See, and that's funny because I think this is not based on anything real, but I think that people are more likely to do the opposite. I think people are more likely to give a big two book grace than a non big two grace because A, they're familiar with the characters already, so there is sort of a familiarity you come in with. And then B, if you're buying Spider Man, it's likely because you really want to read Spider Man,
Yeah.
less so necessarily because of who is doing the book or even how good it is sometimes.
And it's funny, I think that follows waves of creators as well in terms of my reading history. I remember during the Image boom, I was picking up every new Image one. Like new number one issue, I'm picking it up. And that was because there was a lot of people who I recognized from other things doing a lot of Image books, like Hickman and Gillen and Remender doing Image books at the time, and I had been I'd recognized them from previous works, so I had followed that. But now it's almost like people cut their teeth in indie books and then go to big two, and that kind of dichotomy always switches around lately. So I think I don't know if my needs change when that happens, but yeah, I think of like the Image boom, and I was picking up everything at that point.
Well, I think in a non-IP, your creator gets to take risks.
Sure.
And that can only come after the first issue.
I think I almost demand the risk.
Yeah,
I
sure.
almost demand it. Like I don't want to read non-big two books that feel safe, because a lot of the big two books I read, whether I like them or not, do feel safe. Like it's not
Yep.
that crazy to do a story with Wolverine in it. It's just not.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
It,
yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
and I think there's just a latent understanding that this is a company owned thing, and they have a framework, they have a gate they can work, and they have to work in a sandbox. And when you're given a brand new story for Image or Boom or whatever, where a creator can just do their story, there is no sandbox. The endless, like it's limitless in what they can do. So I can understand that kind of mandate you'd have, Sean, for risk.
I want to put myself on the floor, because there's a book that recently came out that I definitely feel like I might have done this exact thing with. And that's FML. So here's what happened. FML, it's by Kelly Sue DeConnick and David Lopez, right? And it's this young book, and I think like there's some powers. It's like a dark kind of horror-ish. It reminds me of Buffy. It's got like Buffy, Stranger Things vibes to it, right? And I read the first issue and it was all right, but I didn't love it. And so I said, I'm done. Like I was just really harsh with it and I dropped it. And someone in our Discord was like, "Oh, well, what didn't you like about it?" I was like, "Yeah, I just didn't really care for it." But I couldn't articulate what I didn't like about it. And more than not being able to articulate it to them, I couldn't remember why. And so that made me go, "Well, shit. Did I misjudge this?" I like Kelly Sue DeConnick. I like the trappings and everything else. Should I have given this more of a chance? Why am I giving Eight Deaths of Spider-Man more of a chance, which I don't even like, but not this, which has all the ingredients of something that I should enjoy?
Well,
Masochism.
because Spider-Man will sell, and not just for Marvel, for us.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a latent understanding too that you will always have a Spider-Man to read, so you can keep reading it. You don't have a risk of not reading Spider-Man, so you might as well keep picking it up. Whereas FML is like, I don't want to keep reading it, get invested, and then it just doesn't happen anymore. It just stops. It gets canceled.
I don't even worry about that. I worry about, am I going to like this? Like
Yeah.
is this worth me investing myself into to then just not enjoy?
I think, and I fall into this trap often. I think we as critical readers, we have what, roughly 36 hours to read what comes out the week before the show, right? And we have to have an opinion on it and whether we think it's good. And for me, I often find myself in more of a binary than a gray space. And if I'm in a gray space, I'm going toward not liking it. Because like if I'm sitting here telling you, my choice is pass or pull, look, if it didn't work, it didn't work.
And in gray space is too gray to say, hey, buy this.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
our show is pass or pull.
Oh man, yeah. And I think I'm doing that in my own mind, where if it's not a pull, it's a pass. It's like and it sounds dumb because I'm the guy who everybody thinks about as buying too many books and then not reading them. But when I do read something, I either want to keep pulling it because I really like it or I just want it gone. And go ahead.
Well, I think so much of it is like we can only read things so many times, and like if it doesn't pull you in, like I'm thinking of like the power fantasy, the way that for me just it folds you in, it envelops you, or like for me, New Gods, right? Um, if it's anything less than that, it's it's not it may be worth another read, but on its face it's hard to say go out and pay for this.
So are you more critical for your own purchasing concepts than you are when you're doing the show and saying pass or pull? Like, is the criteria harsher for something to be what you would buy, what Tyler or Cale would buy, versus what you would say on the show? Yeah, go out and get this.
I try not to add purchasing into my critique of a book for Pals Pulls. I will mention it, but it would not factor into my pull or pass.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm asking you like when it's about Tyler, when it's about
Sure.
your pull list, separate from the show. Are you more critical of what you're gonna keep buying versus when you do the show and we're talking about a book that was like, all right, this was cool, I'll pass it or I'll pull it, but in my personal life, I don't really care too much about this. Does that make sense?
I think a good example of that would be Laura Kinney, the book we just X-Twin, Laura Kinney Wolverine, and that's the title of it.
Yeah.
Like typically, it's a character I love, creative team that I'm okay with, and I found it to be okay. I can't afford to put an okay book like that on my pull list. Just personally, it's not until the comics books makes it so we can all buy each other every book each week. Yeah, it's just I can't justify it. I didn't think it was bad, and I think there's an audience out there for it, but it wasn't good enough for me to be reading it outside the show.
I'm a trade waiter. So by the time I decide I've liked something or dislike something, I've already forgotten it exists until I see it on my biannual comic shop trip. So
That's interesting. Yeah. I think I pull. I think on the show, if I'm reluctant about a book, I'm more likely to pull it than pass. But in my personal life, if I'm reluctant about a book, I'm good. I'm done with it.
I can say this. I made it a point to go pick up the Power Fantasy trade as soon as it came out because I knew I was going to a shop and I said I have to have that to catch up. Because I'm so into it. So if I love it, I'm out there with it.
Sean, you reluctant on Monstrous?
Listen, that's a whole other freaking can of worms. You guys got to watch Pals Pools to hear about that. But um, what Kale just said about grabbing the Power Fantasy, like how many books are you doing that with?
None. Well, two.
And I
Power
think
Fantasy and New Gods, I guess.
and I think that helped that we had an interview with Gillen. Well, not we. I didn't get to make it, but
I was there for that either.
yeah. Did you checked it out though, right?
The interview? No.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you did. I thought
I
you were
don't
talking about it. Okay.
I don't listen to this show.
That was a good one. You guys should
need to,
listen
yeah.
to it. You and Kale, you guys at home and Kale. Um, I think for me, I'm still trying to find a balance between buying what makes me happy, like buying only the books that make me happy, and giving books the grace to make me happy. FML's first issue didn't make me happy, but why does that mean that I never need to read it again?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, that's why I find so much joy in the trade is so that I can get a broader view of what the story is about.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with that. Because I'm not going to trade weight.
You're not really a
But
trade
I don't
guy,
want to. Yeah.
I think that's why you do what you do.
Doesn't sound like you're going to do anything with it.
Isn't that why you do it? I mean, you're essentially collecting trades accidentally deconstructed.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then I read them by. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Read them by chunks. I guess my advice, if I'm going to give any advice to a listener, is be as harsh as you need to be satisfied with the amount of money that you spend any given week on comics
Yeah.
or on anything, quite frankly. don't keep buying something because you think you need to give it grace, but also you don't need to shut something down that you think might be able to get you to a place of happiness if you just stick it out. Am I loving every book I'm reading right now? No, that's definitely not the case. Should I be dropping some books? Yes. But there are also books that, like, all right, this is in a valley right now, but I know it's going to peak.
And as a collector, if you didn't like issue 1, give issue 2 a try. Especially if you're buying them floppies, because issue 2s usually are a lot harder to get. So you could probably pawn that one off down the line.
Sometimes it might be worth it.
How long I was
You don't
looking
have-
for Mark Waid and Paulo Rivera's Daredevil #2 when I forgot to pick it up because I was sick. It took me months.
You don't have to like everything. And I
Yep.
think that's, do what makes you happy. And if you hear that something turns out to be good, it might be worth checking out again. But you don't have to.
As long as you're not being a dick about it online, it's okay to not like something. It doesn't. Not
Yeah.
everything's for you. Not everything's for me. Not everything's for Cale. According to Sean's
Most things
poll
aren't
list,
for me.
most things are for Sean though, compared to his poll list. But yeah.
And you know what? You can always use a Discord like ours that has a bunch of people who are giving their opinions about books that you might have said, let me jump off. And then a trusted person says, wow, FML's been really great. And then I go, oh, I generally agree with what that person said. Maybe I need to give that another look.
On the March 12th Palace previews, whenever you're watching or watching this, Marco checked out Radiant Black Deluxe, a book that you guys reviewed on the show. Didn't much care
Right.
for. He talked about it, but he decided because there was so much buzz on our Discord, on Twitter. He's not really a Twitter guy, but on Discord, that he checked it out again. He wasn't still thrilled with it, but he liked it a lot more than what I remember. So like sometimes that happens with series.
And his recommendation got both me and Sean, haters of Radiant Black, to go, maybe we should give that another chance.
It might only go that far, but
Listen, I don't have all the time in the world.
Let me tell you something. From a podcasting standpoint, I would love nothing more than to love Radiant Black.
oh sure.
Because those people are legion. Like, I would love nothing more than to be able to get on here and just promote it and do all that, but gotta be honest. So
You give me a Spawn #1 that I love, I'm in. I want to. I want to like a book.
We
Sometimes I don't.
tried.
Yeah. Well,
Gunslinger Spawn #1.
King Spawn.
Oh my god. All right, listen.
That book was
I didn't
great.
think that was that great.
We're getting on to Spawn territory, so that means we got to get out of here. But where are you guys at with this? Do you feel like you preemptively drop books? Do you think you hang on too long? Or do you have a handle on your purchasing habits? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear from you. Until the next one, take care, guys.